Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. Thank you, everyone, to joining our webinar today. This is part 2 of an ongoing series. So it's the AutoCAD Webinar Series. In this session today, building off of last week, we're going to be looking at how to best manage your tool palettes in AutoCAD. So I'm Alex Howlett. I'm an account manager here at SolidCAD. With me today, I have Prem Joseph, who's one of our technical consultants. He'll be taking you through today's webinar. Prem and myself work to help CAD users improve their day-to-day work through better practices, such as learning how to manage your tool palettes in AutoCAD. And I'm going to hand this off to Prem shortly after I do a little bit of an intro, and he'll be able to introduce himself a bit better. Please feel free to drop any questions you have into the chat. If they're easy enough, I'll be able to answer them. But if we're going to get into the technical questions, we'll save them till the end for Prem to answer. And for today's agenda, I'm going to start by briefly talking about SolidCAD, who we are and what we do. Then Prem will take you through the rest of the agenda, which includes creating and editing palettes, organizing tool content, managing and sharing tool palettes, and sample projects review. So a bit about SolidCAD, who we are, what we do. For 25 years now, SolidCAD has been one of the leading Autodesk Platinum partners in Canada. And we are the only Canadian-based Platinum partner for Autodesk and Bluebeam, and we are an exclusive CTC provider here in Canada. Our mission is to provide and deliver technology solutions and training that improve our clients' processes, workflows, and interoperability. What it means to be a Platinum partner is that we are operating at the highest level in our respective partner programs. It serves as a message to all that SolidCAD provides top industry and industry expertise and service. It delivers, and we deliver that value onto our customers, as well as expertise and certifications. To become and remain a Platinum partner, we must maintain a certain number of clients and have authorized Autodesk training techs and facilities across Canada. So when I mean across Canada, I truly mean coast to coast. With respect to our training, our facilities are located in almost every province and territory. We employ one of the largest teams of industry tech experts across Canada. They support all Canadian time zones in both official languages. Me and Prem are lucky because we're located in Ontario. So we've got the early morning and the evening because we're smack in the middle of the time zones. The average tech on our team has over 15 years of industry experience. SolidCAD specializes in technology that supports multiple industries, including architecture, engineering, construction, manufacturing, and Prem and I's focus, civil infrastructure. Please note that SolidCAD is software agnostic, which means that we provide a full software solution. So SolidCAD, we've partnered with leading industries and software developers, and we are able to have a deep portfolio to pull from when building solutions for our customers. Setting us aside from other service providers is our large range of service offerings. We are much more than just a software reseller. We provide our customers with support to help answer those why questions, training and consulting to answer those how questions. And we also host events like this one. We host workshops, boot camps, networking events, and other webinars to educate customers and prepare their businesses as technology changes. Again, we're going to save all of our questions. I'll answer them if I can, but we'll save them till the end. I'm going to hand it off now to Prem to take you through the content.
Thank you, Alex. All right. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, or whichever the time zone you all are connected. This is the second webinar series on AutoCAD topics, and today we're going to look at tool palettes in AutoCAD. This particular tool was available for many releases in AutoCAD environment, and a good number of our clients are using them. Having said that, often we get support calls and projects related to tool palettes, and we thought about putting a webinar to highlight some of the good workflows available when producing a custom tool palette inside AutoCAD. So my name is Prem Joseph, technical consultant with SolidCAD, and my specialty mainly in the civil infrastructure side of the products. I also grew up with AutoCAD environment from AutoCAD release 10 onwards, way back from my engineering college days. So I love AutoCAD and passionate about all the technology changes happening throughout the years. When Autodesk introduced this tool palette, we were so relieved to see a better interface on managing a number of items within AutoCAD, which helps us our day-to-day drafting or design life. I'm going to jump on to the agenda. So we're going to look at how to create and edit or modify tool palettes in AutoCAD. While doing that, we'll get a good understanding of the different types of tools or contents we can populate within a tool palette. It's not just hatches or blocks, there are a number of things we can include in the tool palette. While you create your own custom tool palette, how do we manage them? How to share the palette with other users within the company or across globally in different locations. Finally, we're going to review some of the sample projects. So I'm going to see the first item when we talk about the tool palette. Who is going to use them, right? So generally, from my point of view, everyone using AutoCAD could take advantage of the tool palette. Doesn't matter if you're a draftsperson, designer, engineer, CAD coordinator. Everyone could take advantage of this interface. You could have your custom commands, blocks, hatch patterns, AutoCAD out-of-the-box commands, your favorite list of items. You could include the image files, external references. What if I want to attach some of the documents, the CAD standards, or other specific documents related to a project? If you wanted to link them, have it available in the tool palette, you could do it. So any type of documents, any type of spreadsheets, could be a training video, web links. You could include a whole bunch of information into the tool palette. And this is going to increase the productivity and also helps us to maintain CAD standards throughout the company too. You could create the palettes based on the discipline or different groups, different departments in your company. Each group may have their own set of standards or guidelines need to be followed. A different set of libraries for each group. So you could have multiple tool palettes collection within the organization and take advantage of this functionality. So how do we launch this? How do we open up a tool palette? The easiest way, using the Control+3 from the keyboard, you could type TP for tool palettes or tool palettes. Also, there is a command to close the tool palette close. So that will load the default tool palette in your AutoCAD. If it's out of the box, then you get one tool palette coming up with a bunch of different tabs. You're going to find a collection of hatch patterns and blocks and based on industries. Another thing to watch when you launch the tool palette, the right-click menu is going to give us a lot more options depending on where you are applying this right-click. On a title bar, it allows you to create new palette, customize palettes, and customize commands. It will take you to the CUI interface too. If you're doing the right-click inside the tool palette area, you get a slightly different window. If you highlight a specific item or content, then right-click, you have slightly different options. You get to see the properties and control the image. And also you could copy and paste the same content and then apply different properties to it too. So let me switch to AutoCAD and take a look at it. Control 3, my tool palette is up on the screen. So it has different tabs. The out of the box comes with a good collection of symbols and hatch patterns. You could list all the tool palette and then browse to the one specific. In the right-click menu, as I mentioned on the title bar, it allows me to create new palette, customize palette, custom commands. I could right-click within the area of the tool palette. It also gives me additional options. I could add text and separator, view options to control the display of those icons. If I highlight a specific item, slightly different interface coming up. So very easy to use interface. Okay, now let's take a look into a few different options available while creating the tool palettes. What can we do? If you have an open drawing with a number of symbols in it, blocks, you could drag and drop to the tool palette and create your favorite symbols library, organize them. You could open up Windows Explorer and drag and drop items or DWGs or blocks onto the palette. Design Center is another way. If we launch the Design Center and drag the symbols one at a time, or an entire collection, you could grab a set of blocks or the entire blocks from specific drawings to make your own tool palettes. Another approach from custom user interface. The last week we did a seminar on CUI. We could launch the CUI file and then choose the favorite commands and drag and drop them to the tool palettes. That's another approach of including commands into the tool palette. So let me show you a few different ways of creating the tool contents onto the tool palette. The first thing I'm going to do, set a path. So the tool palette locations, the file location. So right out of the box, it is reading to my user profile tool palette. I'm going to browse to a new folder and going to make something from scratch right away. I'm going to go here and create a new folder. We're going to call it Seminar 101. And then going to choose that particular folder. It's an empty folder. Okay, that's the way I generally approach with the client projects when they want to build a tool palette. I will assign a new folder. And at this moment, if I launch my tool palette, you're going to find an empty tool palette with one item called new palette there, right? I can go and rename it. I'm going to call it Seminar 101. Okay, I'm ready to get some symbols onto this interface. So I have a drawing open here. I could choose a symbol and drag and drop. I'm going to get a few items from this drawing. I also have some dynamic blocks. So the dynamic blocks comes with a lightning symbol or picture associated. So you know that is different than the regular symbol. But you have a number of blocks in a folder. Okay, this is a situation where each AutoCAD block is saved in a support folder. I could drag and drop. Let me select one symbol. So it's going to appear onto my screen, tool palette. So you could drag and drop from Windows Explorer, multiple symbols. So you have seen two approaches here. One, by using the existing symbols within a drawing, dragging and dropping to the interface. And the second option from Windows Explorer. Let's take a look into the third option. Autodesk Design Center. So we're going to launch the Design Center. So I could see number of drawings in a folder. Let me choose one, electrical, and maybe I need to get some of the symbols from this specific drawing. I could drag and drop multiple symbols too using a window selection. You could get a whole bunch of symbols if you want to. Another way is by selecting the drawing from the folder. It displays blocks, dimension styles, layers, etc. I can go simply right click on the blocks and say create tool palette. In this case, it's going to create a new tool palette with that drawing name and then going to populate all the symbols from that drawing name. Okay. So that's what happened now. So I have a landscaping tool palette now with all the symbols from that specific drawing. We could also browse to other types of AutoCAD files, such as AutoCAD pattern file. The pattern files includes the hatch patterns, right? So all different kinds of hatch patterns are coded within the AutoCAD.pat file. You may find another one called AutoCAD ISO.pat file. So you could choose your pattern file and then drag them. Right? So that's easy too. You could get your hatch patterns appearing onto the tool palette. Okay. So design center is another way of bringing symbols and hatch patterns onto your tool palette. How do I get some commands into tool palette? There are a few different approaches. One is by dragging and dropping an AutoCAD draw element, we'll get the draw commands. For example, I have a polyline here. If I drag and drop the polyline over to this interface, now it's a polyline command coming. Or I can launch my CUI, custom user interface here. And then look for the commands and drag and drop the commands. Say from this collection, I wanted to look for some of the draw tools. So it will identify. You could search for the commands. I could drag and drop the commands, right? So that's simple enough to get the commands. You could go and search for the commands. Let's say I'll find the trim command. So that's under the all commands. I need to do that search. It's going to show the trim command and drag and drop. So we've seen a few different ways of bringing content onto the tool palette. So the CUI also helps to get multiple commands too. You could drag multiple of a few of them together and put it to, depending on how you wanted to get the commands. One of my favorite with the tool palettes, you could include the documents and the links, as long as you know the syntax, how to include them. It's easy. What you're looking at the screen now, based on AutoCAD 2018 and upwards, I would say, the syntaxes. If you are into a bit of older version, some of the syntax may slightly change. Generally, it should work. One thing to remember, the support calls we get when our customers try to do this, they forget the forward slash, everybody goes with the backwards or backslashes, and then things won't work. So that's one thing to remember when you are specifying the file path for a document or for browser or YouTube links, anything like that. Used forward slashes, remember to use that. Then you are good to go. So any documentation, PDFs, doc files, Excel spreadsheets, anything on those lines, you have to go with the Start app, Explorer, and that's the way to do it, out of the box. I've seen some of our customers using custom Lisp routines to do all these things within the tool palette, which you could do, but out of the box, so AutoCAD allows us to to do all these functionality. So let me show you that, how we can get some of those items going. So in the tool palette, I'm going to make few copies here, okay? All right, so then I can go and modify the properties. So I have a PDF documentation in my folder I would like to launch. So I need to know the path. So I could put that path, the Control-C on the command string, which will cancel the previous command, right? So I could apply that. I'm just going to copy paste over here. And I'm going to change this to a name PE standards. A description of PE standards documentation. Of course, I can go and change the image or specify a different image if I would like to deal with that. Let me find an image here. Okay, you get the idea. You could include an image. You could create your own pictures and apply to the symbols. That's one. I'm going to try a few different options here. I need a tool palette, just say, for example, SolidCAD services. So that's a URL. I want to hit launching with, okay, Control-C again to cancel the previous command, and inputting the path with forward slashes. At the end, you need a semicolon to hit the enter key, okay? So that means enter key. To do one more here to launch a YouTube link. This particular link is our seminar of the previous week about AutoCAD. So you're going to give a name. That's the AutoCAD seminar for CUI. Okay, I'm just going to leave the image for that one, the default. Okay. So now it is time to test it. So I'm going to launch the PE standards by clicking on it. The document shows up. Okay, so that's working. I want to see if the web link is loading up. Good there. And the video. Okay. So you could assign URLs, documentations, pretty much everything you can launch using this interface. All right. Next, we're going to take a look at some of the editing tools. So generally, when it comes to AutoCAD symbols. You need to go them in a specific layer, color, scale, rotation, things like that. You typically use it for the block insertion command. You could assign them in your tool content, your pre-defined values or preferred values, I would call, while inserting them. It's very common, assigning the layers and other parameters. Some symbols you may need to have multiple copies, different scales or different rotation. So you could have one item and then change the tool properties. You could control the display, how you want it to list the tools there. You could control the flyout options if you are using a specific command or a collection of command. Then you could control the flyouts. So let's take a look into that option. So inside your tool palette tab, when you right click, you get this view options where you can control right now I have the list view, icon with text, icon only option. Right. So you could change it to your preferred style, control the image size, easy to do. You could have different scenarios. I can copy the same block and paste it with a different property. Could be different scale. Okay. You could assign some predefined parameters, and when you insert that plug, it's going to be twice the size as the other one. You also have the ability to organize them with text and separators. So I could right click, add a separator there, and I could add a text. They are symbols. So you could manage this collection of tools with appropriate headers and separators. When you look at the commands like polyline, right? If I go to the properties, one way to control the flyout by simply saying, no flyout. I don't need a flyout, so that's going to be just the polyline. Okay. When I say okay. Another way, you could go in and selectively choose the commands in the flyout. So maybe I want polyline spline and construction line, right? So those are the options available there, only those three options. So take advantage of those functionality when you're customizing the tool palette. So we looked at text objects and line separators. You could drag and move the contents within the tool palette, copy, paste, reorder. Okay. Now it's time to take a look at the management and sharing aspect of the tool palettes. So when we have a good collection of tools or palettes, need to know the ways to manage and share them. Each palette you could export to an XTP file, right? So one thing to keep in mind when you launch the customized palettes interface, you're going to have two collections. One is the palettes on the left side, and the right you get the palette groups. So the out of the box AutoCAD comes with a lot of groups. You could create your own groups too. Groups are just a headings or a name which holds a set of palette names only. Okay, you have to be careful. So if you're exporting the palette groups, that needs a collection of palettes also. So you have to export both if you wanted to have a palette group and the palettes coming onto the second machine, right? So the process will be exporting palettes and also export the palette groups. Then while importing, okay, you import the palettes first and then the palette group. So everything will be appearing on the second machine. So let's take a look into that option here. Okay, I'm going to delete that palette. So we're going to deal with just Seminar 101 here, okay? Customize palettes. So I could right click, export, and going into my seminar folders. That's 101. Close. Okay. So let me create a new palette, and I'm going to delete this, and let's see the import functionality is going to work. Customize, right click, import, Seminar 101, it's back in there. Okay. So that's how easy it is to import and export the tool palettes. You could do the groups too. Okay, how about sharing these items, and how do we manage in a network environment? Different approaches on handling the tool palettes. One we call the two folders approach, where you could have one folder or a construct folder where the tool palettes are getting built. The CAD coordinator or the person in charge is creating all the tool palettes. Then you have a working folder in your network drive where you copy everything to that folder, and the typical users will be with read-only access to the working folder. So all the tool palettes will appear on their screen. No edit privileges on those tool palettes. Okay, that's one approach. And this method, you have to remember, when there's an update, make sure you copy to the working folder from the source folder. Also, there is a second approach, a single folder approach. The working folder is live, and you control with the user permissions. So the general CAD users will have read-only permissions to that folder, but a coordinator or the tool palette creator with full access on writing permissions. So that's a good approach. So you could decide which way you wanted to go when you're building tool palettes for the company. So we used to get a number of support calls also. How do we lock the palettes, or what's the best technique to make a palette read-only? So you may need to go and assign the read-only permission for the palette file itself. Okay, there are few different types of files within the folder. When you get into the folder structure here, so for example, I have a seminar 101. I could see, okay, let me look at for this TP folder. So I could see a catalog file and another folder named palettes file. Okay, if I want to lock the palette named new palette, this is the file I need to go and set the permissions to read only. Okay. So when you do that, you get a little lock icon in the tool palette, and it indicates, okay, that's read only. You cannot make any changes, right? So let's try that. So I'm going to close this one. I'm going to set my path to the new palette. Let me browse and look at the folder. I think it was TP palettes. So it was, 1 second, TP. So here's the tool palette came on, and I could see a little lock at the bottom, right? That means I cannot edit them, right? No edits. Okay. So that's how easy it is to lock a palette in your tool palette collection, or you could lock all the palettes. All right. So that's what I wanted to show for today on the tool palettes. And it's time for questions now. We got a few minutes, and let me know if you have any questions.
It looks like we have one question in the chat. It is there a ready built-in tool palettes or menus for BIM environment for AutoCAD?
BIM environment tool palettes means you mean the commands for connecting to the BIM 360, BIM docs, and things like that. I don't see it's out of the box. I don't see them yet, but I believe we could build the tool palettes if you're interested in. Sorry about that. So yeah, I don't see anything out of the box yet.
Okay. There's no other questions in, what version of AutoCAD are you using?
2022.
Good. And I guess I can also take this opportunity to invite everyone to our session next week. So this is a 3-part series. So this is part 2, and we have one more next week. Prem, you're hosting that one as well, or that's Colin?
I think it's Colin doing that one.
Yeah, so another civil tech here in Ontario. So you'll get to see more of us. If there's any last questions, please throw them in the chat now. Or if you want to take down our information, I can put that up on the screen. So there's Prem's information. And I can throw my email into the chat box, and you guys can feel free to reach out to either of us if you have any questions about what you've seen today.
Thanks again, guys.
All right. Well, if that's everything, I guess we'll call it a day, and everyone enjoy the rest of the week. And thank you again, Prem.
Thank you. Goodbye.